I've always been curious on what's the best year in anime/manga, or more commonly the best decade, as that's a more active discussion. Looking for that golden year or decade where so many great shows came out, and for me personally, 1998 is that amazing year. I wanted to start this series to highlight all the amazing shows that have come out every year. This isn't going to be in order or anything like that, just whatever year I feel like talking about at the moment. I might do stuff over the best decades later on, or make a top 10 list for best anime for every decade, but who knows, we'll see in the future. I just feel like it's harder to talk about manga on YouTube than it is for anime, so mixing them together seemed like a good solution. Anyways, to the video. Perfect Blue kicks off 1998 with its release date of February 28th. Other than this, the winter season was pretty quiet, honestly. Perfect Blue is an amazing psychological horror about the life of Kiragoe Mima, who started her career as an idol in the group Cham with two other singers, Rei and Yukiko. After 2 successful years as an idol, Mima decides she wants to try something fresh and becomes an actor. With her successful career as an idol under her belt and a great team, she is able to find work very easily, but the staff make everything as uncomfortable and unsettling for her as possible due to her circumstances. This starts to change her and what the people around her think of her, as her first spot in a show has a rape scene. The movie's only around an hour and a half, so it's definitely worth checking out. Now the spring season brings us the absolute classic that is Cowboy Bebop. Everybody knows about Cowboy Bebop, whether or not you've seen it, you've definitely heard of it. Bebop has some of the greatest atmosphere and characters in the entire medium. This episodic story hits every beat perfectly with its relatable and broken down characters trying to grasp about what they feel like they can even do anymore in life. Finding out more and more about their backstory and past makes you understand how they got themselves in this situation, and you start to feel for them more than you previously did. The progression is stellar with the more episodic nature and starts to dive deeper into more plot-focused points as the story continues. Following the journey of the cast hurts, but man is it amazing. If you somehow still haven't seen Cowboy Bebop, I would definitely put it down for your next watch. Trigun and Cowboy Bebop have seen a lot of comparisons over the years due to some of their similarities. The main characters, the western theme, as well as a literal 2-day airing difference. However, Trigun takes the western theme much farther than Cowboy Bebop. Following the journey of Vash the Stampede, the man with a $60 billion double dollars bounty on his head. Vash refuses to kill anyone, always finding a way to somehow solve deadly scenarios without actually killing anyone in the process. Trigun focuses quite a bit on comedy as well, which really lightens up the tone for a good portion of the show. Whether or not that's a good or a bad thing is definitely up to the watcher. Though, I enjoyed the comedy for the most part and felt like the cast played off each other quite well. It does the same as Cowboy Bebop, where as the story progresses, it starts to be less episodic and dives deeper into the plot for a satisfying conclusion. Trigun certainly still holds up. With the arrival, the summer season brings my personal favorite on this list, though an upcoming entry makes it very close. Serial Experiments Lain is one of the weirdest and most confusing shows I've ever seen. Upon first watch, I was incredibly confused, but at the same time absolutely in love. It's hard to really put everything together on one watch without having some discussion or reading up on online sources. Though I think it's a bit of a disservice to the show to do this, I found myself loving Lain more and more on each rewatch, giving me such an amazing appreciation for everything this show does. The Wire gives light into the Baltimore drug scene through both sides, the law enforcement and the drug dealers. Wait, that doesn't sound right. Oh shit, I clicked on the wrong link. Okay, so The Wired is actually a virtual world of communication networks, or basically what we know as the internet. It starts to grow rapidly like we've seen in real life, but the distinction between real life and the internet starts to feel indistinguishable besides the necessities we share in daily life, such as eating, school, work, and etc. This leads to Lane's classmate, Chisa Yamoda, killing herself as she felt there was no reason for her to stay in the real world any longer. She gets Lane involved in The Wired through an email she sent after her death. This show is extremely fast-paced and decently hard to follow, though if you pay attention and think about the show, you'll understand most things. I don't want to give off the impression that it's something impossible to understand 500 IQ show and scare people off. You'll understand more as you watch. Now for the permanently on hiatus manga Vagabond. Please come back. I miss you. Anyways, Vagabond is over 300 chapters long and takes place in the 16th century Japan. It focuses mainly on Miyamoto Musashi, a Japanese swordsman dealing with his travels and struggles. Musashi manages to bring out the best in people and the worst at the same time. Through his travels, you learn a lot about the world and its current problems, as well as different types of people that live in this world, as well as their ideals. Also, the fight scenes are just amazing to read. One of the unique perks about Vagabond is that even though it's incredibly long, I felt the quality only continued to improve as time went on. I definitely recommend trying a few chapters at the very least to see if that piques your interest at all. Now for my other love I mentioned briefly while talking about Serial Experiments Lain, His and Her Circumstances, or more commonly referred to as Karikano. Karikano is a very multi-layered show to talk about. It definitely has its fair share of struggles, but personally I think its charm and amazing main duo chemistry is unmatched for other romance anime. Yukino Miyazawa and Soichiro Arima are definitely my favorite couple in media, period. They bounce off each other so well and make one another grow as people. It's my favorite part of the series. They're maturing and understanding more about their lives and situations right in front of you. I just haven't been able to find another romance like this before, where I'm constantly rooting for them and wondering what's going to happen next. They each have their own fake personas they've created over the years and use for school to protect themselves. Yukino has a huge inferiority complex, making her try to keep up with this stressful everyday life of perfect grades and the best attitude. You can see this isn't what she's actually like herself at all though. When she comes home every day, you can see her get into the most laid-back outfit and decompress. She quickly gets back to studying though to keep this appearance she's created at school. It feels like she never rests and is constantly pushing herself too far. Arima on the other hand was born into abusive parents, which were a huge disgrace to his extended family that are extremely wealthy. Due to his fear of being like his parents, he's created an angelic persona to everyone, even his aunt and uncle that he lives with, trying to get everyone to like him. Together as a couple, they're able to help each other grow and become more comfortable with who they are, and it's an amazing journey to watch. Karikano is also directed by Hideaki Anno, the director of Evangelion. That's a pretty big name and he does an amazing job, except for the fact that he leaves the project after episode 18 of 26. Once this happens, there's definitely a drop off, and it also stops focusing on the main couple. Due to the cancellation, it's also only one season, even though the manga goes on way longer. Supposedly, the manga author Suda Masumi was so mad with the adaptation that she demanded it be stopped after the first season. She didn't like how they played the comedy into the show and felt the tone was different from what she wanted. That being said, even with the drop off after episode 18, I still highly recommend watching this show as it's one of my all-time favorites. I feel like being prepared for a drop off makes it easier to handle when it comes, but if that's too big of a deal, the manga is still very good. And that's my list for 1998. I have some quick honorable mentions for a few shows. Initial D that I haven't seen yet because it's so long and I wanted to watch it all consecutively, even though I've seen a few random clips. Also the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Not Duel Monsters, the actual original series. If it was Duel Monsters, I definitely would have had to add it to my list. May Kazuki Takahashi rest in peace. Also 3 other shows I kept out because I felt like they aren't the best versions of the material. The Cardcaptor Sakura anime, Fruits Basket manga, and my favorite manga actually, Yokohama Kaidashi Kiko. Sorry about KK, but the 6th episode OVA doesn't cover nearly enough of the 100 chapter manga. That's it for all my honorable mentions, and I'm curious to see if later on, once I've watched more anime, my favorite year will change at all. Maybe I'll make an update years later if I'm still doing this. I'm also curious what you guys think is the best year in anime. I love to look through years and people's lists to see where they're coming from. Did I miss any? And thanks for watching.